All right, Shalom Israel with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Start at the 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization. Let me know if y'all can see the board clearly. I just want to make sure y'all can see the board. Let me know if y'all can see the board. Baba Kwashad, just bear with me for the time, all right? Bear with me. A little under the weather, trying to get things situated. So I'm just bear with me, Baba Kwashad. All right? So lock you. But all right, Israel. All right, this is the Lashawan Qadash class. All right, this is the Lashawan Qadash class. All right, it's very, very important for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to learn their culture and to learn their heritage. Like, this is our language. This is the language of our forefathers. Like, this is the language of our ancestors. This is who we are. This is what we about. This is what we speak. It is very, very important for all so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you know what I'm saying, to learn our language. Like, this right here on the board is the Lashawan Qadash. This is our language. This is who we are. This is what we about. We have to understand that. And we want to pay very close attention to that. So now, anyone attending the class, make sure you share this class and like and subscribe to our channels. All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about the present tense. We're going to continue about the present tense. I kept on the board where we left off. All right. This is where we left off. All right. From last week. All right. We're on verb conjugations. Now, when it comes to verb conjugations, that means a verb conjugation is when something changes with the verb, when something changes with the word. So right now we're focused on verb conjugations dealing with the present tense. All right. So now remember from last class, I really hope that y'all took notes. I want y'all to take as much notes as possible. All right. Take as many notes as you can. All right. Bubble question. Now remember, now Salaki, if I get a little winded, just bear with me. All right. Just bear with me. I'm gonna do my best. All right. So now, these are verb conjugations, meaning something is changing with the verb. So this is where we left off. All right, this is exactly where we left off. We want to keep that in consideration where we left off. Make sure y'all took. Hopefully y'all took y'all notes. All right, because remember, this is something very important. All right, this is something very, very important. You want to make sure you put these things into your notes. The Lord says, "Let all things be done in writing." You understand? Because this is how we keep. That was the Spirit of the Lord saying that, because the things that we did in writing, this is how we kept. This is how we kept our records. This is how we kept the language. Like, this is how we know how to write in the Lashawan Qadash and how to speak in the Lashawan Qadash, because we held on to our language. All right. Now, if you guys have any questions, put into the live chat. But if not, we're going to continue. We have two more after this. We have two more verb conjugations after this, all right, which is very simple. Now, remember, when it comes to the present tense, everything is pretty much the same, all right? The only thing that really changes is usually the end. Like, for an example, where we left off was athun. Athun is the subject pronoun. Now, remember from last class, everything deals with the subject pronoun. If you don't know what the subject pronoun is, you're not going to know how to conjugate the verb. You're not going to know how to conjugate the verb yalak. All right, we're using the verb yalak in this case. See, this is the ya and this is the lak, yalak. But when you conjugate it based off of the subject pronoun, which is athun, you have yawalakwa. Now that wa is written in red because that's the main change. Like, throughout all of the conjugations in the present tense, there will always be a wa between the first and second letter. That will never change. But the ending, that's why I wrote it in black. That's always, like, the ending will change. The ending will be different based off of the subject pronoun you use. All right. That's why it says a wa goes between the first and second letter. Add wa at the end. Now, specifically, this wa goes at the end when you're using an athun, because everything is based off of the subject pronoun. Remember, when you conjugate a verb, everything is based off of the subject pronoun. When you are conjugating verbs, everything is based off of the subject pronoun. Remember that. All right. So if you guys have any questions, put into the live chat. All right. Now, the reason why we have different colors on the board, hopefully those different colors work. All right. Hopefully. I made sure I put different colors on the board so everyone can pretty much tell the difference. All right. So now, let's see. Let's get it. So now we're going to get ham. Right, we're going to get ham. All right. Now, ham is a subject pronoun. All right. Even if anyone did not notice that ham is a subject pronoun meaning they. All right. We have two more. Okay, so let's get it. I'm gonna get it real quick. Cause then after that I'm gonna write sentences. All right. We're gonna kind of get into sentence structure. I'm gonna give examples of sentences, and I'm gonna keep it in this type of format. I face the camera a little closer because I might have to write a little smaller than what I have now, so you guys can see what's going on. All right, so just bear with me in this case. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that out, and then we're gonna change this on the top. Remember, we're changing the subject pronoun because everything is based off of the subject pronoun. Remember, you can't do anything unless you know the subject pronoun. Once again, you can't do anything unless you know the subject pronoun. You ain't gonna know nothing unless you know the subject pronoun. All right? You can't conjugate anything. All right? Also, once we get into the sentence structure, what we have, if you guys want any documents, okay, how do you say what time? Okay, I'm gonna write it real quick on the board. I'm gonna write how do you say what time? Like asking the question I need is, let me see, Salakia. Just bear with me, Aqua. I think I see your question. How do you say I need? All right, okay, I see. I need. Okay, actually that's perfect. So what we'll do so I don't have to do too much erasing, and kind of keep things on the board, I'm gonna use the word the verb I need, all right, or to need. All right, that's actually no sweat. So Most High in Christ. All right, Most High in Christ. So I'm gonna get I need. All right, real quick, I'm gonna get I need. All right. All right, here you go. Okay, let me know if y'all can see that. All right, especially for the aqua. All right, so this is how you would say I need. All right, in your case, I'm a break it down in this case. Remember, the root word, right? The root word is tazarak. Forget about the wa for now. Okay, forget about the wa for now. Okay, you can see Most High in Christ. So tazarak is the original word, but now when you conjugate it, all right, when you conjugate it, when it comes to the conjugation, right, you add a wa between the first and second letter. All right, so it would say tazawarak, and that's how you would say I need. Now, because you're a woman and because you're a sister, all right, you would just add a ha at the end of that, and it would be tazawa, tazawaraka, tazawaraka. That's how you would say it, tazawaraka. So you would say anya tazawaraka. If you need me to add the ha at the end, I will. I just wanted to give you the basics of it. But I'll add the I at the end so you know. When I meant not I, but the ha. All right, this is how you would add the ha. All right. Well, Salaki, that's incorrect. I mean, the incorrect color. That's correct, but that's the incorrect color. Remember that ha. All right, that ha, right? This is how you add the ha at the end. All right. So because you're a sister, you would say tazawaraka, which would be I need, but coming from a sister. So anya tazawaraka, 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 tazawaraka. So you would say anya tazawaraka. Does that help you, sis? Let me know if that answered your first question. All right, well, one of them. All right. So tazawaraka. That was a good question, by the way, because we're learning how to use verb conjugations. We're learning how to conjugate verbs. Now, before this class, I would have told you to say anya tazawarak. I mean, it's like I would have told you to say tazarak. I would have just taught you to say tazarak. But because we're getting more advanced now, I'm going to teach you tazawaraka. All right? Okay, Most High in Christ. Now, I'm gonna say I need is and okay. So if you're asking for is or and slash and okay, well and what time? Okay, the is implied, by the way. All right. If you're asking how to say is, by the way, Akwa, the is implied, but I'll give you what time it is. I'll show you. All right. Quickly to say how to say what time. You're asking what time. So do you remember how to say what? Do you remember how to say what in Hebrew? If anyone remembers how to say what in Hebrew, type it into the live chat to see if you guys remember how to say what. But I'm still write it. What we have on the board, all right, is what time, which is ma'ayf. So you have your ma, which means what, and then you have your ayf. This is an I, then a tha, but that I at the end gets cut off, so it's ayf. Ma'ayf, 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 meaning what time. All right. So if you're asking someone what time it is or what time is it, all you would have to say is ma'ayf, ma'ayf, ma'ayf. Ma'ayf. All right. So ma'ayf, what time is it? Okay. So Salakia, ma'ayf, what time is it? Okay. Most High in Christ, Agwaf, that's correct. So what? That's correct. That's exactly what is. So you would say ma and then ayf. So ma'ayf, what time is it? If I did not answer your question, Agwaf, just let me know if it did. Like what time? This is how you would ask what time. Ma'ayf. All right. Ma'ayf, that's how you would ask for the time. So if anyone at Passover is coming, try to speak as much Hebrew as you can, and do not be afraid to speak Hebrew to brothers and sisters, even if they don't know it. It's brotherhood to speak Hebrew to other brothers and sisters, because this is how we learn. We learn from each other. Like this is how you build the nation. Like remember, we're going to be in the wilderness, and we're going to have to teach brothers and sisters our culture. We're going to be the ones that already know how to speak the language, how to speak the Lashawan Qadash. Like when Christ comes, don't think we're going to be speaking English and Spanish and Portuguese and Creole and Patois and all that. No, that's not what's going to happen. We're going to be speaking Hebrew. Like Nehemiah, he was a priest of the Lord, and he saw Jews that could not speak Hebrew, and he put a fire to their back ends, man. You understand? Like he contended with them, he fought them, he whipped their tail. You understand? Damn near to the death of a man. He pulled the hairs out of their heads because they couldn't speak Hebrew, and also because of interracial marriage. Like it was serious. Like that's how serious it is. Like that's how serious the Most High is about us being separate. Because when we are not separate, we start to lose who we are. We start to lose our culture. We start to lose our heritage. We start to forget where we come from. That's why a lot of our people that marry these other nations and marry these heathens, they forget they come from the hood. They forget that their mother was single and working at Save-A-Lot and working 16 hours a day to put clothes on their backside. Like we forget about that when we go ahead and marry a heathen. Now we all bougie and stuff. You got Serena Williams and whatever the other sister's name is, the Williams sisters. They don't care no more. They completely forgot that their father dealt with racism in the 60s and 70s. They forgot where they came from. And they end up laying with the very same people, right? That was prejudice and being racist towards their father. You understand? Like we gotta be real careful. All right, we have to be real careful and take this serious. Like this is our language. This is part of our culture. You understand? We wanna speak to each other in Hebrew so we can learn from each other. All right. All right. The Lord is serious about being separate. Like this is why it's called the Lashawan Qadash, the holy tongue. This is a separate language from anyone else's. Like this is how you know we're God's chosen people. Because we can say Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shah Brakathum. And we can say Yahweh Shema Al Thun by Hashem Yahweh Shah. We can ask like my wife, asking what time it is. We can say Anya Anak Nawa Yahweh Lakim Lama Rakah. We're going to the store. Like we can speak the language. You understand? We can speak it fluently. Like this is what it means to be black. This is what it means to be a Jew. This is what it means to be an Israelite. This is what it means to be an Ephraimite. This is what it means to be a Benjamite. This is what it means to be a Simeonite. This is what it means to be an Iskarite. Like this is something serious. So let's hold on to it. Let's take it serious. You know what I'm saying? But hopefully that answers your So just let me know if that answers your question, and I'll move on with the lesson. All right. Salakia, this was the Hebrew class. I didn't mean to turn it into some scripture breakdown. Salakia. All right, but I do what I love our culture so much, you know what I'm saying? I get a little, I might get a little hype for it. So Salakia. All right. It might be Dimitri. But just let me know if that answers your question out, Waffle. We'll go ahead and continue on the lesson. Okay, most high in Christ. Most high in Christ. All right, we'll go ahead. All right, so we're going to get oh man, so let's see. All right, so we're going to get the next one. Now remember, we're doing verb conjugations, all right? Everything is based off the subject pronoun. So the next subject pronoun we're going to get is ham. Ham is the next subject pronoun. Now, does anybody remember what ham means? Anybody remember what ham means? Before I go any further, what does ham mean? I'm still going to write it on the board, but if y'all know it, y'all go ahead and just let me know. Ham. So ham means they. All right, ham is the subject pronoun for they. They is a subject pronoun. Remember, ham is the subject pronoun. You're not going to be able to conjugate the verb unless you know the subject pronoun. All right, you won't know what to say. Like that's why this is blank, because we're not going to know. Right, in this case, I'm using this as an example. This is why it's blank, because we don't know what to say unless we know this. All right, always keep that in mind, and take that into the past and the future tense. The present tense is kind of easy. It's very simple because it kind of keeps the same flow. All right, I'm gonna go back to the original verb to go. That's what we were using. So I'm gonna stick with that. Why? Because as Israel, we're always on the move. We're always going somewhere. All right, and so we're always going to be using this verb to go. At least I know I will. All right, I know for sure I will. I'm always on the go. I'm always on the move. You know what I'm saying? The ISUPK, we're always on the move. We're always doing something. All right, so we're always going somewhere. All right, like we're going to be going to the Passover. Right, well, let's get that in the Hebrew. We're going to the Passover. We'll get that after this. All right. Here we go. Actually, let's see. They are going. Here we go. They are going. So this is what this would translate to. Khan, I won't forget the Gadites. Salaki about that. I won't forget the Gadites. You know what I'm saying? I won't forget the Gadites. Like, this is who we are. The Gadites, we spoke Hebrew. The Native Americans, we definitely did speak Hebrew. The Native Americans, the northern tribes, period, we kept most of our culture, right? We kept that. We didn't fall too far away from the appearance, all right, of our culture. Now, we did fall away when it comes to us worshiping other gods and things like that. So here we go. So now you have Ham. Ham is the subject pronoun for they. This is in the masculine in the position of authority tense. All right, because Ham is masculine for they. All right. So this would be mostly for like brothers. All right. When you're talking about a group of brothers, like when I say they, I'm referring to like a group of brothers. All right. Someone that may have a position of authority or someone in charge. So Ham. Then you have, all right, Yawalakyum. All right, Yawalakyum. And Yam at the end. At the end, Salakyum. So now you have Yawalakyum. So this is how you would say they are going. So if you want to say they are going to the store, or they are going to the store, or they are going outside, you would say, all right, you would say Ham Yawalakyum. Let's say they are going to bed. La mamata. They are going to bed. So you would say Ham Yawalakyum La mamata. They are going to bed. And those they would, since I said Ham, right, you know for sure this is talking about a group of brothers maybe going to bed, or some little, or some, kids. Yaladyum in the Hebrew are going to are going to bed. All right. All right. Now remember, you don't have to say Ham, right? You don't have to say Ham necessarily. You can just say Yawalakyum. You can say Yawalakyum Lamamata. You can say they are going to bed. Now, if you want to specify who the they is, you can say the children are going to bed, right? Well, the children are the they. So instead of saying Ham, you would say children in the Hebrew, and you would say Yaladyum Yawalakyum Lamamata. But we'll get there. That's why I'm going to do the sentence structure. I'm gonna get why we don't always have to say the Ham. All right, I'm gonna get into that. There's a reason why we don't have to say the Ham, because once we start adding other subject pronouns or pretty much nouns into the mix, it doesn't get difficult. It's not as hard as y'all think it is, but it actually gets kind of easier. All right, in a way, as long as you know how to conjugate it. All right, and you have to think about the sentence you're trying to make. All right, so you have Ham Yawalakyum. All right, you remember the Y. A Y goes between the first and second letter. The Yam. Add Yam at the end. You add a Yam at the end of the word. So you have Ham Yawalakyum. All All right, Yawalakia. This is how you would say they are going somewhere. All right, in the masculine tense or the position of authority tense. All right. All right. Let's get the next one. This is the last one, then we're going to get into making sentences. We're going to kind of play around a little. All right. In a way, we're going to play around, mess with it a little bit, kind of get familiar on how to make sentences and using the present tense. There we go. There ain't going to be too many changes. Not, subservient. All right. Now we're going to be using the subject pronoun han. Han still means they, but in the feminine or the subservient tense. All right, so this is when you're talking about like a group of sisters or like a group of little girls, something more feminine. All right, now, the reason why we also have the SS up there, so like your wrong color. The reason why we have the SS up there, because that stands for subservient. Because the they could be talking about the children of Israel. And that can sometimes be in the subservient tense. Even though the reason why it's in the subservient tense, because the nation of Israel, all right, can be referred to as a woman sometimes according to the Lord, because the Lord, in the position of the children of Israel, the Lord is like a husband to the nation of Israel. He's like in charge of the nation of Israel, like a man would be in charge of a woman. Like that's why the Lord says in the New Testament, let your wives be subject to their husbands as they would be subject to Christ. All right, or subject to the Most High. I'm paraphrasing, but read Ephesians chapter 5 verse 22. The reason this is you can kind of see our language, or it's like you can kind of see our culture and our heritage. All right, in our language. So now the subservient tense, the reason why we have the subservient tense, because the nation of Israel can consist of men and women and children of different genders, male and female. But the tense is put in like a feminine tense. Well, this is why we say subservient tense, because we as a nation of Israel, we are subservient to the Most High. All right. All right, next question. I see your question, Akwa. How do you say we need? All right. Okay, I'll go. Okay, so we need or how much? Okay, no sweat. I'll get to that real quick. I'll go ahead and get that while we're kind of playing with the sentences here, because we went over how to say we. So we did go over how to conjugate the verb we. All right, and it's similar. All right, but hold on, I'll give it to you. All right. Right after this, I'll give it to you. And how much? All right. How much? All right. I believe that would be ma'ad. All right, ma'ad. How much? All right, how much? But let's break this down. Okay, I'll read that later. Order. So now you have han. Han is the subject pronoun for they. Now to conjugate, all right, the verb yalak. Remember, the original word for yalak is the ya and the lak. You see, I wrote it in blue so we can distinguish, all right, what the original verb was. Because remember, we're conjugating it. So there's a difference to the word now. But you want to know, okay, this person is saying yalak, but they're adding the wa and the wa. So in order to conjugate, all right, they, all right, or it's like how to conjugate the lot based off the subject pronoun they in the present tense, you would say Yawalakwa. Yawalakwa. All right. Yawalakwa. All right. You would add a wa. A wa goes between the first and second letter. Add wa at the end. That's your wa right there. This still means they are going. This still means they are going. All right. So to say they are going somewhere, and this could be talking about like a group of sisters or, girls, period, or this could be talking about the nation of Israel. Because remember, sometimes the nation of Israel is in the subservient tense, or so to speak, the feminine tense. The reason why we say subservient, because the nation of Israel consists men and women. So we're like in a subservient tense, meaning we're in a position of serving. That's what it means to be subservient. We are in a position of serving when it comes to the Lord. So when the Lord is speaking to the prophets, and the Lord says, the Lord is speaking and saying the nation of Israel, they went to the other side of Jordan, right? Well, to went meaning the past tense, it would be written in the past tense. But let's say the nation of Israel is going to the other side of Jordan, right? You would write Yawalakwa. You would say Yasha'ala, right, which is Israel, right? Yawalakwa, right? Let's say La Yahawadan, right? Meaning Jordan. All right. Or let's say Jericho, the other side of Jericho, Yerakia. Something like that along those lines. Like that's an example, right, of how that sentence would be structured. You would still say Yawalakwa because you're referring to the nation of Israel, and sometimes the nation of Israel is referred to like in a subservient tense. You know what I'm saying? Now let me know now, like for an example, and I want y'all to understand, the nation of Israel is like a possession unto the Lord. And the land of Israel, is like, most lands are referred in the Bible, and most lands are referred to like a sheep, because lands are possessions. Like lands are something you possess. Like think about like a vehicle. A vehicle is never a guy. You know what I'm saying? A vehicle is always like a woman. A house is always like, or I'm just gonna stick with the car. Like she's a beauty. Like this is my baby girl right here. Like that's how the nation of Israel is to the Lord. All right. So I want y'all to kind of think about it in that way. That's why we say subservient. So the nation of Israel, you can put Yasha Allah Yawalakwa La Yahawadan, which is Jordan. You wouldn't be wrong when you say Yawalakwa, because the nation of Israel, even though there's men and women in the nation of Israel, you can put it in the subservient tense when the Lord, because the Lord will speak to us in the subservient tense. All right. I just want y'all to understand that. All right. Okay, all right, and I'll get those for you right now. I got y'all. So now, let's get to the sisters' questions. So we're gonna I'm gonna add what the sisters going for. All right. So these are the verb conjugations we went over. If you guys have any more questions to put into the live chat, the sister had a few questions, which kind of goes on topic on what we're talking about. So now we went over all the verb conjugations in the present tense. So we're going to kind of get into it when it comes to kind of playing with sentences and seeing how sentences would be structured. All right. So let's get this out the way. All right. And we're going to get some of the sisters' questions there. All right. Because it kind of goes along on how to structure sentences. All right. How to structure sentences using the present tense. All right. We're going to get some examples. All right. So the sister's question was, How do you say we need? All right. How do you say we need? Does anybody, now we just went over the verb to say need, right? How do you say we need? Let's say we need, food, right? Or let's say we need to eat, all right? Can anyone tell me? We're gonna use we need to eat. We need to eat. So we're gonna do that. Does anybody know how to say to eat in the Hebrew? All right. I'm gonna show y'all how to use verbs as well while also conjugating a verb in the sentence. Because sometimes you don't have to, if there's more than one verb in a sentence, you only have to conjugate one because only one is based off of the subject pronoun in the sentence. I'll say that one more time. If you have two verbs in a sentence, you do not have to conjugate both verbs because only one of the verbs are based off of the subject pronoun being used. All right? So now, when it says, so how do you say to eat in the Hebrew? Does anybody remember how to say to eat? All right? Because we need to eat, right? We need to eat. All right? We need to eat. So how do you say to eat in the Hebrew? Does anybody remember? Let's see if anyone got it. Let me know. Let's say we need to eat. A call. Okay, to eat. Okay, we need to eat. Now, you don't have to say a call. Okay, in this case, the reason why we don't have to say la means to. A call means to eat. So if you're saying a call, you would be saying to eat. So because the la is already implied, because a call is a verb alone, you do not necessarily have to say a call. You can just say a call. But give the akwak the hand. A call means to eat. All right. So we want to say we need to eat. The word we need. How do you say we? Well, anak nawa. Remember, anak nawa. All right. Well, let me capitalize that. Anak nawa, which is we. Anak nawa. All right. So anak nawa is how you would say we. So now we have anak nawa on the board because the Aqua asks we need something. So let's say we need to eat. You have anak nawa. Let's get it. Tazawak. Taza warak. All right. Wa. There we go. Warak. Then you have yum. Taza warak yum. All right. Which is need. Then we're going to write a call. All right, equals to eat. So this is how you would this is how you would structure your sentence. All right, if you want to say we need to eat, remember when you you conjugate your verbs based off of the subject pronoun. So anak nawa is the subject pronoun, which means we. Tazarak is the original verb. Tazarak is the original word. But to conjugate, all right, the verb tazarak based off of the subject pronoun anak nawa, you would add a wa between the first and second letter, and you would add a yum at the end. So you would say anak nawa tazawarakyum akal. This is how you would say we need to eat. All right, anak nawa tazawarakyum akal. Now you see how the verb akal is left alone. That's because this akal is not, it doesn't, okay, this akal is not based off of the subject pronoun. Only the tazarak is. Tazarak means need. Tazarak is how you would say need. Okay? So now if you say anak nawa tazawarakyum akal, this is how you say we need to eat. All right? We need to eat. This is how you would structure a sentence. Anak nawa tazawarakyum akal. Now, here we go. All right? You see this right here? You see this anak nawa? You don't have to say anak nawa. You can just say tazawarakyum akal, meaning we need to eat. Now here we go. Let's say I get rid of the anak nawa, right? Let's say we get rid of the anak nawa. Let's get rid of the anak nawa. Now, if I get rid of the anak nawa, now I want y'all to use your heads. If we get rid of the anak nawa and remember the conjugations, remember our conjugations. If we get rid of the anak nawa, this says tazawarakyum akal. Now, think about it. Can this still mean we eat, or can this mean something else as well? Can this mean something else as well? And remember about all the verb conjugations we just went over. Think about it. What else can tazawarakyum mean? Or what else? Okay, to ask the question properly, what other subject pronoun will give you a tazawarakyum? What other subject pronouns will give you a tazawarakyum? Does anybody remember? Well, no, it won't mean I need to eat. Because remember, this yum, all right, is letting you know that it's talking about more than one person needing to eat. This yum is letting you know there's more than one person, right, that needs to eat. So it won't say I, because I is only by itself. You're talking about yourself. So tazawarakyum wouldn't mean I need to eat, but it can also mean they need to eat. It can also mean you all need to eat, right? Why? Because this is how you would conjugate they or you plural. It would still give you tazawarakyum. So with that being said, if tazawarakyum can mean we need to eat, and tazawarakyum can also mean you all can eat, all right? And if ham, meaning they, can also, and tazawarakyum can also mean they can eat, right? Right, that's correct, Akwa. So if tazawarakyum can mean we need to eat, or you all need to eat in the masculine tense, or they need to eat in the masculine tense, right? Context is everything, right? So let's say we have Tazawarakim. It can mean we need to eat. It can also mean they need to eat. It can also mean you all need to eat. Now let's bring it home. Let's give an example of, let's say, Yarash wa, let's say, Dawada. There we go. So let's say Yarash wa Dawada. All right. Let's say Yarash wa Dawada. You have Yarash. Now, is Yarash a subject pronoun? Not necessarily. All right. Hold on one second. Okay, Salaki about that. Okay, so now you have Yarash. Now, is Yarash a subject pronoun? No, because this is someone's name, right? Is Dawada is Dawada a subject pronoun? No, because Dawada is someone else's name. So now, for an example, let's say Yarash wa Dawada need to eat, right? You have more than one person here, right? So depending on how you say it, Yarash wa Dawada, you're saying Yarash and David, right? Or let's say Dawada in the Hebrew. Dawada is, all right, Dawada is David in the Hebrew. Yarash is like inheritance in the Hebrew. So let's say these are their names. Yarash wa Dawada. These are people's names, right? So let's say Yarash and Dawada need to eat. Well, now you have more than one person here, right? You have two people here. You have Yarash here, and then you have Dawada here, and they need to eat, right? I just gave it away. Yarash wa Dawada Tazawarakim Akal. Guess what? That they is implied, right? Or let's say, right? Does everybody understand me now? Yarash wa Dawada Tazawarakim Akal. In this tense, you would say they need to eat. You're saying Yarash and David need to eat. Yarash and Dawada, they need to eat. That's what you're saying. But you don't even have to say they. You can say Yarash and Dawada need to eat. But because you're talking about them, all right, or you're talking about they, all right, them or they is, that's what I'm talking about. If you're talking about them, which is they, you can say Tazawarakim. Now, does that make sense? Let me know. Before I move on, does that make sense? All right. Okay, most time Christ, are y'all in the bar? Now here we go. Same thing. If you change the names to like woman names, just change the yum to a wa. All right? Because now that they is talking about in the feminine tense, and you can say in that case, all right? Let's get another, let's answer the sister's other question. Let me go through the chat, Salaki. All right. I know you had other questions, wow, so hold on, bear with me. But that's just an example. I answered the sister's question. But that was also an example on how to structure sentences in using the present tense. All right. Okay. All right, to say how much, ma ma'ad. All right, so you would say ma. Ma can also mean how as well. Okay, it can also mean how. Ma can also mean how. So what and how can mean the same thing. All right. There is another way how to say how, but this would be a quicker way to say it. Ma'ad. Ma'ad. All right. And you're asking, this is how you would say how much. All right. So ma ma'ad is how you would say how much. All right. Ma ma'ad. Ma is how you would say how or what, or ma'ad, meaning much or great. All right. Or sometimes more, depending on the context. So if you're asking ma ma'ad, I would know, because there's a question in front of it, I would know that you would be asking me how much something is. Like depending like on currency or how much weight it is or whatever the case may be. You would say ma ma'ad, how much. All right, ma ma'ad. All right. Does that answer your question, Aqua? You got that down? Let me know. All right, Most High in Christ. That answers the question. Most High in Christ. All right, next we got is okay, next we'll get is okay, ma ma'ad. Next we'll get is the Aqua question. I also want to know, stop that and can you leave? Okay, so let's get stop that. That's very easy. That's an easy one. All right, that's very easy. All right, stop that. So let's say you're talking to someone and you want them to stop something. All right, there is more than one way to say stop, by the way. There's more than one way to tell someone to stop. All right, you have two ways to tell someone to stop, depending on which one you use. One's more, one's nicer than the other. All right, like to tell to someone to stop, you would want to say chadal. All right, you can also say shatam. All right, you can also say shakwat, meaning, but those more so are like to be quiet is shakwat, or to stop talking, shakwat. Shatam is to shut up, stop talking immediately, and chadal is like broad. All right, it's more broad. All right, so to stop that. All right, now stop that. Okay, you can say, okay, put it this way. Okay, you can conjugate the verb chadal. Chadal is a verb to stop. Chaadal, chadal, meaning to stop. You can conjugate this if you want to. All right, like if you want to say you stop, or you want someone to stop, you can say you stop. All right, like you stop that. All right, so you can say chawadal. All right, I'll just write it down. Chawadal. Ha. All right. Wadal. The reason why I'm conjugating it because this is what we're learning. All right. In most cases, you can just say Qadal and just be like stop. But if you want to be more proper and get more to speaking the language, you would add a Y. All right. Hawadal. Meaning stop. All right. So Hawadal, you're telling someone to stop that. Now, if you want to know how to say that, me personally, now this is a personal preference. Me personally, I would just say Hawadal, meaning I'm telling you to stop, or I'm telling them to stop. But of course, if you're telling a group of people to stop, you would say Hawadal Yum. All right? But let's say you're just telling someone, just one person to stop. You're saying you stop, but you're really just telling them stop. Remember that you is implied. You don't have to say you stop. You can just say stop, but that you is implied. You can say Alex, stop. That's saying Alex, you stop, but you're still saying Alex, stop. You would say Hawadal, meaning to stop. Now to say that, the word that is ha-ha-wa-ah. But if you're telling someone to stop that, you don't necessarily have to say ha-ha-wa-ah, which means that. Me personally, I would just say Hawadal, or I would just say Khadal. I wouldn't go the extra step to say ha-ha-wa-ah. I wouldn't do it. But you can if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that. However you want to speak is however you would like to speak. Everyone speaks differently. As long as you're pronouncing the word correctly, at the end of the day, it's okay. All right. But me personally, I wouldn't say ha-ha-wa-ah at the end. But if you would like to emphasize on what you want them to stop doing, you can say stop that. Hawadal, ha-ha-wa-ah, meaning you stop that. Or if you want them to stop that, you would say, remember, they. Remember how to conjugate they. You just add the young. But in this case, let's say they is a group of sisters. All right. So let's say they this time is a group of sisters. All right. You want them to stop, right? You want they to stop that. But let's say it's a group of sisters that you want to stop. You can say Hawadalwa. Hawadalwa, ha-ha-wa-ah. Or you can just say Hawadalwa, meaning they over there stop that. Like you want them to stop. Because you're talking to a group of sisters in this case. Or let's say you're talking to a group of little girls, whatever the case may be, you would say Hawadalwa, meaning stop that. You can add a ha-ha-wa-ah if you want to. Hawadalwa, ha-ha-wa-ah. You know what I'm saying? Hawadalwa, ha-ha-wa-ah. But I would just say Hawadalwa real quickly. Hawadalwa. Okay, we good. My bad. We'll stop. I wouldn't say Hawadalwa, ha-ha-wa-ah. All right. Like I said, you can if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that. But the word that is ha-ha-wa-ah. So if you want to know the word that, if you want to add that to any sentence, you can say ha-ha-wa-ah. Sometimes, all right, in the Bible, by the way, sometimes when you're reading the Hebrew and you're reading the Lashawan Qadash, sometimes you'll just see this, which is ha-wa-ah, which means that. But in most cases, it can also mean he. All right. You'll see hawa'a. Usually it means he, but sometimes it can mean that. It differs sometimes. But hawa'a is that. But sometimes when you're reading the Bible and you're reading it, sometimes that can just be written as hawa'a. All right. but you want to read for context because it can also mean he. In most cases, this will mean he. In some cases, it will mean that. But ha, ha, wa, ah will always mean that and never he. All right? Khan, our language is most definitely lit. I agree. I most definitely agree. Now let's get, can you leave? Can you leave? That's a good question. Can you leave? How do you say leave in Hebrew? Izab. All right? Izab is how you would say leave in Hebrew. Izab. But let's get it. Let's get it. So, anybody online? Now, this is not a common verb, but it is a verb that you want to make common. So the verb can. The verb can, all right, if you can do something like C-A-N, to say can, is having the ability to do something, right? If you can do something, that means you have the ability to do something. So the verb can would translate the ability to have the ability of something. So to be able, all right? So can translated in Hebrew would translate to be able. All right, so to be able. Does anybody know how to be able? All right. Well, how to say to be able in the Hebrew? Does anybody know? You can say la'ah if you don't know, that's fine. All right. The sister asked a good question. Can you leave? How would you say can you leave? Let's find out. Can you leave? Does anybody know how to say can in the Hebrew? Or to have the ability of? All right. Now, if you guys don't know that, that's fine. But at least answer me this. What's the subject pronoun for you? Anybody know? Okay, you're called. That is correct. You're called meaning to be able. All right, you're called meaning to be able. That's correct. Give the sister a hand. To be able, to do something. Your call is how you would say, all right, can or to be able. So your call. All right, we're going to be using your call. So now, does anybody know the subject pronoun for you? How would you, so what's the subject pronoun for you? All right. Anybody know? What's the subject pronoun for you? Y'all can give it to me, but I'm going to write it on the board. So the subject pronoun for you is atha. All right, Salakia. Atha. Why am I writing it? Hey, Salakia. You have atha. Atha equals you. Right? Atha equals you. Atha. All right, atha equals you. That's correct, Akbar. Give the sister a hand. Atha is you. So atha is the subject pronoun for you. So if you're asking, can you leave? All right. Now I'm going to break this down carefully. All right. You are talking to someone individually. Let's say you're going to be talking to someone individually. Because you're asking that individual, can you leave? So you're talking to someone individually. So the reason why you would have a thought up here, not because you're actually using the word a thought in your sentence, but you're talking to someone that's not you, which would be you. All right? That someone else is the you. All right? You're not talking about someone, so you wouldn't use he. You're talking to someone. You're not talking about a woman, so you wouldn't use she. Right? You're not talking about someone, you're talking to someone, and that's the you. You're not talking about yourself, right? So you wouldn't use I or I am. You're not talking about someone else and you leaving or wanting to leave, so you wouldn't use we. All right? You're not talking about someone else over there, a group of people, so you wouldn't be using you all pluralized. You're not talking about someone, right? You're not talking about a group of people, so you wouldn't use they. This is how you should be thinking in order to structure. This is how you should be thinking to structure your sentences in Hebrew. All right, I want y'all to kind of get used to that. This is how you would structure your sentences. You want to think about what you're saying. All right, you want to think about what you're saying and how you're going to say it. That's why it's so important to understand subject pronouns. Because you're not going to know how to structure your sentences unless you know subject pronouns. So since you're talking to someone, that someone is the you. All right? So you're not actually using a thought in your sentence, but you're going to be conjugating your verb based off of the thought. Before I move on, does that make sense to everyone? Before I move on, does that make sense to everyone? And let me know, Aqua, does that make sense to you? Since it is your question, so, let me know if that makes sense to you. But to everyone watching, does that make sense to everyone watching? All right? Let me see. Okay, Most High in Christ, it does. So now, how would we conjugate a thought? Or it's like, how would we conjugate your call? All right? Well, let's say in this case, all right, for an example, we'll get both for an example. Let's say this is talking about a brother, and then the next example will be a sister. All right? Because there's two different ways on how you would conjugate it. All right? So here we go. The first example will be a brother. All right? That's no sweat. Let's say there's a brother or a male child you want to leave, or you want them to leave. Okay? Sometimes children get on your bad side. You be like, can you leave? Leave me alone. Can you leave? It happens. All right? Sometimes it happens. Let's see. All right? In this case, I'm going to change the color here because I'm going to break that down. All right, here we go. So let's break it down. Now, here we go. So now remember, a thought is you. Now, you're not actually using a thou, but because you're talking to someone, all right, that is the you. So you're going to conjugate your verb based off of the subject pronoun you. Okay? So now you're not actually saying, because it's gonna sound confusing. What you're going to only say in your sentence is Yahweh call. Yahweh call. So now, to way to conjugate this, well, Salaki, I did say we're going to do masculine first. So let's say in the masculine first, in the position of authority first, right? This is how you would conjugate the verb you call, meaning to be able or can, based off of the subject pronoun you, in the masculine tense or the position of authority tense. So it says Yahweh call, Yahweh call. Remember the rule. The Y goes between the first and second letter. That's the rule for a thought in the masculine in the position of authority tense. The Y goes between the first and second letter. That's it. That's how you conjugate it. So now you have Yahweh call ka. Yahweh call ka. Yahweh call ka. What is that ka? Does anybody know what this is? What is this ka? Anybody know what that ka is? Does anybody know what that ka is? Now, this is one way how to write this sentence on how you ask me, sis. There's actually more than one way to say it. But in this case, I'm gonna show you this way. What is this ka? No. So this ka, okay? Remember, this is a verb, right? Because I wanted to break this down. Now, remember my classes in the past. So this is the verb, yakal, but in this case it's conjugated, yawakal. But this is still a verb. But this ka means something. This ka is considered an object pronoun. This ka is considered to be an object pronoun. All right? An object pronoun. Everybody understand that? This is an object pronoun in this case. This is an object pronoun. So this object, so now remember the rule. Object pronouns come after verbs, while possessive pronouns come after nouns. Remember that rule. Object pronouns come after verbs, while possessive pronouns come after nouns. So this is an object pronoun, which means you. This is how you would say you, right? In the Hebrew, when it's coming after a verb. So this is yawakalka, meaning can you. Yawakalka, can you. Then you have izab, meaning to leave. So can you leave? Yawakalka izab, can you leave? All right. This is if you're talking to a brother. You would say yawakalka, which is can you, then izab, meaning leave. This ka is an object pronoun. You would use the you. This means you in the Hebrew. So a ka at the end of a verb means you. But let's say this was a noun. The ka at the end of that noun would be your. All right? Just to kind of give you a quick lesson on that. All right? Watch my video on subject pronouns. Make sure you watch my video on subject pronouns, object pronouns, and possessive pronouns. I have a video on subject pronouns and object pronouns and possessive pronouns. You want to know those for sure, all right? Because that will help you structure sentences. Oh yeah, Ayandabar, that's no sweat. So yawakalka, Isaac, can you leave? All right, can you leave? So that's how you would say, can you leave? This is good right here. All right, any more questions? I thought you had one more. If not, that's fine. All right. So now remember, I'm glad the Akwak asked that sentence or asked how to say that sentence because, well, pretty much the sister actually helped me bring out rules of how to structure sentences. Sometimes you have to structure sentences based off the subject pronoun, even though you're not using the subject pronoun in the sentence. All right? And this was a perfect example. All right? Sometimes you have to structure the sentence based off a certain subject pronoun, even though you're not using the subject pronoun. And I say that because sometimes you may not actually you're actually not talking to someone about you, all right, and so to speak. Sometimes you're talking about someone leaving, but because you're talking to a you have to base off the subject pronoun you. But let's say you were talking about yourself, then you would use the subject pronoun anya, which is I or I am. If you're talking to someone about you and someone else, right, you would have to use we, all right? But sometimes you don't have to always use the subject pronoun. But in a case like this, right, you're not going to say, can you leave? You know what I'm saying? You're not going to, like, if you want to use the subject pronoun, you would sound crazy because you would say, can you leave? That would sound crazy. Like, can you leave? Like, that would be weird, right? Like in English, if you want to say, can you leave? In English, no one would ever say, can you leave? Like, that's some 80s school teacher movie type stuff. Like, hey, can you leave? That sounds crazy, right? No, you would say, can you leave? That you in English is also implied because you're basing your sentence off of the subject pronoun you. Let me know if everyone understands that. All right. Oh yeah, no sweat out lock anytime. This is something, you know what I'm saying? This is something that, we need to start taking serious. You know what I'm saying? This is something very serious that we need to, really, hold dear to. You know what I'm saying? And we want to help each other speak this language. This is a little more advanced. All right. So if you can understand this, you can pretty much really start speaking Hebrew fluently. You're getting into the more fluent way of speaking Hebrew. But don't get it twisted. The more our brothers and sisters hear advanced sentence structuring, the more we will start to catch on. Like, think about it. If you immerse yourself in speaking Spanish and you're always around people speaking Spanish, eventually you'll start to pick up Spanish. You may not be crazy fluent, but you would be close to being fluent. Well, use that very same concept. We need to use that very same concept in the Hebrew. All right. We want to immerse ourselves in the Hebrew and start speaking so much so other brothers and sisters can immerse themselves into speaking the Hebrew a lot more. Like, oh, okay. Some brothers and sisters are going to get more excited too. They're going to be like, oh, snap. I understood that. We're going to eventually get to that point. You're going to start listening to brothers speak and be like, holy crap, I just translated that in my head and I don't even know how I did it. It's going to come to a point where you just automatically know what these words mean. And you're like, oh, snap, I can speak this language. That's crazy. Like, we're going to get to that point eventually. We just got to keep coming to class and just start taking it serious and kind of study a little more and, and we'll get there in no time. All right. So it's definitely going to get there. All right. So, we want to keep that remember, I want everyone to remember, all right, this language is something serious. We want to learn this language. Remember, Nehemiah in the Hebrew, all right, which is Nehemiah. Like, that's how you would say Nehemiah in the Hebrew. It's Nehemiah. So if anyone knows also Nehemiah in DC, right? He's named after Nehemiah, all right, in the Bible. And Nehemiah, which is Nehemiah, that brother was a strong brother. When he saw the Jews and he saw our people not being able to speak our language, he fought those brothers and pulled the hairs off of their head and damn near beat them to death because they couldn't even say Yahweh Isaiah. Like that's how serious it was. He literally beat up, like Nehemiah literally beat up these Jews because they couldn't say Yahweh Isaiah. You understand? Nehemiah literally beat up these Jews because they couldn't say Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Barakatah. They couldn't say Yahweh Shema Al-Than Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. So he contended with them and fought them and pulled their hairs out of their head because they couldn't speak this. Now imagine when Christ returns. Let's just think about it. Imagine when Christ returns. That's why when Christ returns, he's going to know who his people are and who truly followed him during the times of end. We're going to be speaking the same language he speaks. We're going to be wearing the same things that he would wear, like fringes. You understand? Like we're going to have froze and boots and beards and things like that. We're going to have sisters that are going to be silent and being quiet and not being masculine and aggressive and things like that. Christ is going to know who his people are. Just based off the language we speak. All right. So with that, that's the class. All right. I'm gonna say Imadium, which means to stand. All right. We're gonna give a curse salute to the brothers. All right. Men of Israel. Imadium Shabbat. Imadium Barak. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Barakatah. Yadim Matah. Sar La Agwafim, which means turn and face the sisters. Men of Israel. We're going to give a courage salute to the sisters. All right. Men of Israel, Madim Shabbat, Imadium, Barak, Yahweh Shemar Al-Than by Hashem Yahweh Shah, Yadim Matah. With that, class dismissed.